Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Fer and this is another episode of Deciphering Phyrexian. And this is very special because this is a double feature. We are going to first talk about the Phyrexian Swamp Lore, which we have finally deciphered, and we did it during a live stream and with a lot of help from my audience. And then we are going to talk about the first Sol Ring written with accurate Phyrexian text. I'm going to tell you how I was able to write it. And by the way, if you think this looks beautiful, and I mean it does, if you want to own this, you can. There's a link in the description to an auction. I think after the day I'm posting this video, there's only 1 day left in the auction. So if you want to own it, you better hurry up. But yeah, so let's get started, and let's start first with the Phyrexian Swamp Lore. Okay, so let's go word by word. First of all, we have Kashkan, which just means swamp in Phyrexian. Okay, so far so good. Then we have the future tense marker, then we have the word resistance, and then we have the word creature. So this is the creature of the resistance. Okay, and then we have the verb to see. And this is a very interesting conjugation because, as you will notice, this is an a. And as far as I know, we have never seen a Phyrexian verb conjugated this way. So this is basically pronounced rukan. And we are not entirely sure if this is a first, second, or third person conjugation. But this probably means something. But since the creature here is like the subject of the sentence, this is probably a third person conjugation. So this probably means something as the creature of the resistance will see. Okay, but what will they see? Well, this one is very interesting because there's a Reddit user, Citrus Inferno, who has also been deciphering Phyrexian. And in fact, he is the person that knows the most about Phyrexian other than me. And when he tackled the Phyrexian Swamp Lore, he saw the following. If you see this word, okay, let me zoom in. Okay, so here was Citrus Inferno's reasoning, which was really good. He sees present tense marker, he sees the word mirrodin, and then he sees a word he has never seen before. But since Phyrexian is an agglutinative language, he realizes that this word he can break it into parts. And the first part is something that we have seen before. This is pli. And we have seen other examples of this prefix being used, and it seems to mean something like under or inside or something like that. And well, what could mirrodin be under, right? But what are the other things that under attack? So it makes a lot of sense. Actually, the one of the most famous sets in the Magic's history is mirrodin besieged. And another way to say besieged is under attack. But then this guy in my audience noticed, in fact, let me check the name. His name was Osmagod. Okay, so Osmagod in my audience realized that we have seen this word before. It appears in Tamio. Yeah, you can see it here. It is the same thing. Here is pli, which means under, and here is nex, pli nex. So yeah, it is the same thing we are seeing in here. And so if we know that the translation of this card is Tamio, completed sage, well, then this word must be complete in the Phyrexian sense, right? So that's very interesting. So this means mirrodin is complete. Okay, so that's what the creature is seeing. The creature of the resistance will see that mirrodin is complete. Okay, so let's continue. And then we have this other future tense marker. It's a little bit weird because if you realize it's just the same future tense marker but twice. We are not entirely sure how thus duplicating the tense marker changes its meaning, but we are fairly certain that it must be related to future tense. And so we have future tense, and then this one is interesting because first we begin with the on prefix, so this turns something into a place, and then we have this one. You can read it phonetically. It's an M, E, F, and this one is interesting because it's like a V but with the on voice marker, so it's an F. So mefiders, we doesn't have the O. But if you know Magic the Gathering lore, you know that Mephidros is a swamp in Mirrodin. Okay, so it's talking about on Mephidros, you, and then we have work. But notice here that work is not at the end of the sentence. So this is a noun and not a verb. And then the verb of this sentence is also work. But it's not exactly work because it at the beginning has PL. And this is something that we have actually seen before. For example, in Jinky Taxias or in other cards, when they talk about your end step, they use this. And so it seems that it is the end of the work. Or another thing I was thinking about it was the complete, because at the end of the work, something is complete. But the problem is that complete in the sense of finished it's too confusing with complete in the Phyrexian sense. So I'm referring to this as finished. So basically it is saying that you will finish the work on Mephidros, okay? But that's not the end of the sentence, because then we have another tense marker, and this one is past tense, and then it is talking about someone that does something. I know it sounds vague, but what happens is that in Phyrexian, you have a way to turn verbs into nouns. So for example, actually, this is a good example. Here, we actually know that it says Sheldred, the whispering one. And you will notice that for whisper, we begin with work again, and then we have whisper. So it's basically, it's like in Phyrexian, work also sort of means to make. So this is the one that makes whispers, okay? And so here we have someone that makes something. This one word is the only word in the entire thing that we have not been able to decipher. This one verb. We know it has to be a verb because it is the one that makes something. It could be whispering, it could be killing, it could be flying, it could be a million things. But until we see another example of this verb being used somewhere else in some other context, I don't think there's a way for us to know. We try to use lore. Who could be watching the Phyrexians? Like in a religious sense, they might feel that Jackmod is watching them. In a literal sense, Eleshnorn could be watching them. But it's just everything we tried. Nothing matches what we are seeing here. Also, it's interesting to know that this verb seems to have a negation marker, like an opposite marker. So it is someone that makes the opposite of this. And so this is the consonantal root of something. Look, it has 3 consonants, which is very, very appropriate for Phyrexian. And so, yeah, it's not clear, but someone is gonna watch them. This one is interesting because Rukem is to see, but when you put these 2 consonants before it, it seems to mean to watch. Like the difference between see and watch. And in fact, when you turn this into an ability, it becomes vigilance. And it makes sense, right? Because a watcher is vigilant. I think that's kind of like the reasoning. So, in summary, the whole thing seems to mean the creature of the resistance will see that Mirrodin is complete. You will finish the work on Mephidros while someone watches, or someone will have watched you finish the work on Mephidros. This last part of the sentence is the one thing that we don't know for certain. But again, we deciphered most of it. But what I want to do in this video is tell you how I was able to use everything we've learned about Phyrexian so far to write the first Sol Ring in accurate Phyrexian. And first of all, what I did is that I wrote the name phonetically, because we have learned so much about the Phyrexian writing system that we can write pretty much everything phonetically. And now I want to explain what's going on with the word. The word Sol, it's pretty straightforward. S-O-L. But then ring might be a little more confusing because we have this R, E, and then this looks like an N. But okay, let me explain. So what happens is that in Phyrexian you have these vase symbols. So for example, this is the voice symbol for all the nasal sounds in Phyrexian. If you just leave it like that, this will sound like an M. okay? But then, well, a very common thing that you can do in Phyrexian, what they do most of the time, is that you can use this diacritic, which these diacritics basically point to where your tongue should be to make this sound. And in this case, it's pointing to the front. And if you put your tongue on the front of your mouth while you make a nasal sound, well, this will be an N. But then, in the word ring in English, something interesting is happening because you are not reading it exactly as it is. So, phonetically, the word ring, using the International Phonetic Alphabet, would be written something like this. This symbol here is the velar nasal. The velar nasal is almost always in English when you have N and G. What you are pronouncing is this sound. No one says ring, right? You don't say ring. You say ring, and you are making this velar nasal sound. And the way you do it is that, well, this is a nasal sound that you do by sending your tongue to the back of your mouth, right? Ring, like feel it in your mouth with your tongue using like in the back. And so this is the velar nasal. And I thought that, well, yeah, if I'm writing it phonetically, and since Phyrexian is a featural writing system, I can write this English sound using the Phyrexian alphabet. Well, it felt like the best option. Also, you will notice that here is a separation in the line, which is odd, but what happens is that in Phyrexian, the line usually means that this is a single sentence. And when two words are related, but they are not forming part of a single sentence, like with a verb, subject, and object, they are separated. And you can see it, for example, in Urabrask, where Urabrask is separated from the hidden. And in fact, you can see it in many other instances. And so it seemed like the best option to use in this case because, of course, Sol Ring is not a sentence. There is no verb here. Then we have the word artifact, which we learned how to say thanks to the new Jingitaxias, which we decipher live on Twitch before anyone else. Next, we have the word tap. And here there are two options. We can either write tap in Phyrexian because we know how to say that. But in this case, we chose to go with a tap symbol to make it look more like any other magic card. Because yeah, a magic card written in other languages still use the tap symbol and the mana symbols and stuff like that. But then we have actually this thing here. This is like the semicolon in Phyrexian. We have seen it in other examples. In fact, it appears in the new Tamillo. Then we have the imperative. This is giving an order, and then to, and then your, and here is where you insert the how do you call it, the mana symbols, like the colorless mana. In fact, let me show you. So yeah, here you have the order, and then you have the two mana symbols, all the mana symbols for the colorless mana. Here's the bunch of the text in Phyrexian. We have two mana pool, and mana pool is a compound word that is made of ma'an, which is mana in Phyrexian, and peok, which means pool, so mana pool. And then finally the verb add, which we have seen in other examples. And so yeah, here you have it. So Sol Ring is an artifact that if you tap it, you are basically ordered, because that's how Phyrexian works, you are ordered to add two colorless mana to your mana pool. And so yeah, that's the secret of how we wrote it. And remember, if you want this beautiful card to be yours, and you are watching this video the day it comes out, you have 24 hours to go participate in the auction. The links are below. And so yeah, this was very cool because here we have the first Sol Ring written in accurate Phyrexian. And of course, we managed to decipher finally what the Phyrexian Swamp Lore says. And so yeah, that's another day deciphering Phyrexian. Thank you so much for watching. This video, like all my videos and my live streams, was brought to you by my Patreons: Ultimo Tiosum, Matt Zweig, Daniel H. McGillivray, Marlo Brown, Valerie Hyde, David Saunders, and my new Patreon, T. Highfield. All my Patreons, thanks 1,000 times, thanks 1,000,000 times.